for joining us for our next edition of the Intellectual Lifestyle Podcast. I have a very special guest with us today. His name is Daniel Gilstrap, and he's going to be talking to us about his experience as an artist in Atlanta. Our usual podcast host, JV, is out this week. Definitely miss him. He should be back next week. And in the meantime, though, we'll try to give you a very interesting and exciting little adventure through the Atlanta art world. So I'm going to start with Daniel, if you can give us a little bit of a background on what got you into the art world and like what made you want to be an artist, and then maybe just kind of how you started and a little bit about your work.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel James Gilstrap. I'm born and raised in Atlanta, and I've always been involved in the arts. Um, I was raised in the arts in Atlanta. My parents were both from Georgia, and they have a lot of friends in just different roles and communities within the city. And thanks to that, we got a lot of just different opportunities to kind of explore things. My foundation in the arts is actually based in summer camp I went to at Spelman College. There used to be a thing called Spelman Dance and Drama Institute, and little five through like 15-year-olds used to go to this summer camp to practice dance, drama, learn swimming, have like initial conversations about culture. It was really fun. I used to play on a djembe drum and everything. I didn't used to play on the djembe drum actually. I have to like clarify that. Other kids got to play on it because they had better rhythms than me, if I'm being honest. I used to play on the timpani. That's where you like use a stick and everything. But we did summer performances, and then I've also just had a lot of great art teachers throughout growing up that spent time with me. And I've been a lifelong doodler because of things like cartoons, but I also have talented uncles who also were good storytellers and artists and things. And I've overall had a lot of space within Atlanta to learn and have good creative memories.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you recently wrapped up a show, and I wanted you to tell me a little bit about how you got into the show and also some of the pieces in the show. We're going to we have one of the pieces here on site that we'll definitely take photos of so our listeners can take a look. But yeah, just give us a little bit more information as to the show itself and kind of what the concept was behind it and, just a little bit more about your work.
Yeah, so recently I was showing with the Day and Night Project. They're a smaller gallery within the Atlanta area, within the Weston area. And I was showing a body of work titled Black Folk Stars. This was the second edition of the body of work. So this one was called Black Folk Stars Are Naturally Iconic. It was following the first appearance of the body of work titled Black Folk Lens. The idea was just to do paintings of everyday Black people or things that kind of reminisce of everyday Black people. A lot of the times when Black portraiture artists do their work, I think the work kind of bounces between either painting celebrities and prominent figures or painting people in your surroundings or in your life and kind of giving those people kind of the same spotlight we might give prominent figures. So similar to how you might see someone like a king or a celebrity or a politician paint it, I wanted to paint Black people and kind of give them that mythological power and just kind of give them that overall clarity. And yeah, it's been a fun process. I had a friend during the pandemic. Her name is Ariel. She's a poet. And I believe during that time she was working on a body of work and being interviewed occasionally about it. And when people would ask her about it, she would also ask other Black artists to think more intentionally about how they're presenting their work and what they're doing just to add kind of just kinder depictions of Black people into the Black community or just to be smarter about what we were adding into the overall lexicon as Black artists. And I've had both experience in performance art as well as in visual arts. And I've been doing more things within the visual arts and just trying to think of a kind thing to do. Because a lot of the things I did in performance arts were just films with people just trying to push themselves at the end of the day. I think in performance art, everybody's trying to, or when I was in theater and when I was in film, everybody's trying to be like, I'm the next great director. I'm the next Spike Lee. And so everybody's trying to figure out how to make the next profound thing. And when you're younger and doing that work, it ends up being a lot of like pushing the envelope things and a lot of like drama things that maybe you're not really meaning to write on. And so I was just with people that were writing about heavier subjects than maybe we needed to. And just in a lot of scenarios where I was like, this is kind of too real and this isn't accurate, even if we're seemingly smart for sharing these kinds of stories. So I wanted to take a break from that and just kind of get back to the simple life and take some time to appreciate being from Georgia. Cause being from Georgia and being Black, cause when I was growing up, I kinda just did everything to kind of just prove my identity, if that makes sense. So, more than I was thinking about, like, my family or my upbringing or being Black, I was just like, "There's a person named Daniel James Gilstrap, and that person is gonna be the most successful artist a lot of people he grew up with knew." I was like, "I'm gonna be a great comic, I'm gonna be a great actor, director, I'm gonna be the next multi-hyphenate." Nothing is funnier than, like, your self-mythology, because like, when I was younger, I would go to concerts for artists, like hip-hop artists and stuff, and there was, I'm acting like people don't know this, but Donald Glover was is really popular now, and he's kinda, like, built his success throughout my adolescence. And when I was in high school graduating, he did his camp tour concert, which opened with Danny Brown. I was one of 7 people who knew who Danny Brown was in Atlanta at the time, and I'm only saying that so that I can get credit for it. But, when you write your self-mythology, it's really funny because I remember back then I was like, "Donald Glover, Daniel Gilstrap, we have the same initials. I go to his concerts, I'm fated to be the next successful Black artist. Everyone will know my name." He looked at me in the crowd. You know why he looked at me for point 0.5 more seconds than you? It's because I am God's chosen next DG from Atlanta. And it's very funny that, like, you have those moments when you're growing up, and growing up is a thing that when that moment happened at 18, I was like, "I'm grown, so this is destiny. Life is done. We're already on the fast track to success," and you don't know how. I tell people all the time, it's quite ironic that I'm a painter right now because I told everybody I would do everything else, and then throughout doing everything else and everything else kind of being overwhelming, kind people were just like, "You like drawing, you like painting, maybe that'll bring you more peace." In college before I dropped out, and they were all right. They were all very right, and I should have listened to them more and stayed in school. But yeah, no, I'm currently painting because painting brings me great peace as a challenge in life, and I really do like the challenge of exploring painting as a medium for myself and just kind of exploring um, the dialogue it brings.
I think that's really important too for people to understand because I mean, why do people like art? What do they get out of it? What do the artists get out of it? Because some people think, oh, to make art, you have to be tortured. You have to like have all this pain that you're siphoning into your art. But is it really just exploring life and trying to reconcile everything that's happening so you can create something inside of you that, brings you joy, brings you peace, brings you, I mean, because some people, they'll paint or they'll create very dark work but that doesn't mean that, like, it's coming from necessarily from a dark place. It could be just a reflection of where they're at, and they're just trying to get it out of them so that way, like, they can be at peace. So, out of curiosity, since pieces are your work is right now the portraiture work that I got to a chance to enjoy and really enjoyed when I went to your exhibit on Sunday, um, what would you say is the tone of what you're expressing in your current work? Because, I mean, I know we talked about the eyes, so he does these beautiful portraits, and when you look at them, like, the eyes, like, kind of follow you. I know you said that one of, your friends or one of the people that was intending on buying your work said that the eyes were a little bit, like, almost, like, disconcerting.
Oh, I was talking about shout out Aunt Audrey. I was talking about Miss Audrey. Miss Audrey is a church member and was one of my mom's best friends, and she's a very kind woman who is has consistently been there throughout like the highs and lows of my life. And her family are like very much advocates for Black art. So shout out to the Curlies. She doesn't also want art pieces that look back at her though, which is such a cute thing in my opinion. Because a lot of my artwork is made very intentionally in that way. I always love I love a good meta, if that makes sense. I love like the story behind the story. I love how things get developed. I love like there being more than just the picture and stuff. So like with my work and with like the portraiture work, with the eyes looking at the audience, because a lot of my work does have eyes and pupils that kind of are looking at the audience. firstly, I try to find photos where people are looking at the audience to like reference, or I try to like paint the eyes in a way based on the reference that they are looking more direct with the viewer. And I do that because when I was in college, I took uh a couple black visual arts classes and like thinking about it within the theory of it. And we would talk about the gaze a lot, and we would talk about how the viewer we were just talking about like the theory of like viewing things a lot. And I was always feeling I've always had like certain insecurities about like how I'm perceived and like how others around me are perceived. I'm a middle child and that's part of it, but I'm also like the middle child to like two very beautiful siblings and stuff. When I was growing up, people would constantly like try to like barter with me to like talk to my sister, and all the time I would be like, my sister is smarter than all of us talking about her, so I don't know why you're talking to me. I'm like, you're talking to me as if my sister thinks I'm smart. Like, my sister's not looking for my cosign. My sister's looking for her smart friend's cosigns, which is so funny. But I also have a brother who is an athlete and stuff. He's a track athlete and he's very in shape. I mean, he's a very beautiful boy. So I've always just had like an understanding of like people's like perception of bodies and like different standards and stuff. And so I'm thinking about, like, how I'm perceived. I'm thinking about, like, the things that I've privately done to, like, be better perceived or, like, not be perceived, because 'cause I'm just, like, I'm not meeting, like, the standards of, like, whatever is, like, general standards of beauty and excellence and things like that. So I try to think about just other people being put in that position. Like, I have younger cousins and stuff, and, I don't have too many, like, boy cousins and stuff, so it wasn't something I was worried about with them, but, like, I have younger, cousins, where I'm just like, "Ugh, I was really insecure about these things." If you're privately worrying about these things and don't have the environment to talk about it with people, or you just don't trust it, then I should probably be making something that kind of helps you trust the universe more, just because other people did that work for me at the end of the day. So I think about that a lot when it comes to the portrait work and just kind of giving the portraits their power back. It's like I'm using references from people that kind of aren't there to like defend themselves at the end of the day. I'm also selling it to people who will own art. And everybody's not the most prepared or articulate to talk about art. Some people just like a thing. Sometimes art makes you feel good about something. I think with my portraits though, I'm trying to inspire memories at the end of the day. It's like they're looking at you cuz um something I think about a lot is that when my grandparents were alive, when my dad's parents were alive, I was in and out the hospital in middle school because I have arthritis, and in order to find out you have arthritis, you have to go in and out the hospital, and they have to, like, test you for everything else because it's kinda like a big deal if a doctor's gonna tell a middle schooler they have arthritis out of nowhere. So I was in and out the hospital a lot, and in order for that to happen, I was with my grandparents a lot because my parents still had to work. They had 3 kids, obviously. So I was with my grandparents when they would, like, do funeral ministry, and so during the 2 years that I was with them during those things, there were plenty of times where, like, it'd be funerals for, like, peers, or it'd be funerals for, like, people who would become peers, or, like, 2 of my friends' parents, passed and everything, like, one's dad, one's mom and stuff passed, and, like, I was there helping out for that funeral. If not for being with my grandparents, I wouldn't have gone to that funeral, but I did, and it kinda, like, changed our relationships for forever, and so I think about that even a lot, where I'm just like, oh, why am I painting this? Because I'm painting this the same way that I read James Baldwin today. It's like there are things that I'm insecure about as a black man that James Baldwin wrote about when he was writing years and years ago. So now I'm making paintings that ultimately will hopefully people will see them, and they'll see these like striking figures, and they'll see these confident figures. But they'll also see that these confident figures are regular people, or like more accessible people, and then that will inspire them. Like, the show you went to, it features a lot of, like, as much as it features, like, people in, like, regular clothes or what I would consider regular clothes, there's a lot of, like, performers, and I was thinking about, like I was talking about earlier, I was thinking about Spelman and, my upbringing at Spelman, the dance summer camp, and I was thinking about dancers and performers, and if that had become my regular life. I was just thinking about how, like, I have a very artsy-fartsy regular life, but that's not my complete regular life because that wasn't my upbringing, and it makes things complicated, but not complicated as like a problem, but complicated. And it's very interesting to be like, my dad's a postal worker at the end of the day. My dad's a postal worker. We talk about sports a lot. We talk about religion a lot. We talk about how Atlanta is changing a lot. And I learn a lot about like my upbringing from him. We don't talk about the arts a lot and stuff like that. But I feel like everything we talk about is getting shared in different arts pieces. And like when I have kids or if I have kids, the arts that I've made makes it easier for me to like share about him and share about like why someone like him is important. If I become like, I'm rolling my eyes, the camera can't see it because there's no camera, but I'm rolling my eyes because people will be like, oh, you're an artist, so your success is inevitable. I'm like, maybe, but it's still, the art still has to serve a point, even if like it doesn't end up making me rich. So I'm like, what's the point it's supposed to serve? Um, Everyone just needs to believe in living their life a little bit more. So I'm helping with that.
Oh, I think that's very beautiful, and as far as, at least the piece that you brought in today, there's definitely, I mean, there's the gaze that we were talking about before, but one thing that I like about it too is that it has a very kind of intent, like, there's a certain serious level, but I don't know if it would say it's sad or it's just kind of, like, contemplative, like, it's almost like someone's looking at you and just being like, "Okay, so what are you bringing to the table?" That's
Yes,
how I might get it.
exactly. So, this piece that we're talking about here is called "Birds Told Me to Speak to You," and I think about things like mysticism a lot. I think about the Southern Gothic a lot. I think about storytelling a lot. Like I was raised by people that are heavily involved in the church, and so I was raised by a lot of like people that are adjacent to pastors or are pastors. And so a lot of people that just have to like tell stories a lot as much because sermons are stories at the end of the day. I think I get embarrassed when talking about religion and stuff just because I have a lot of peers that aren't religious and things like that. But like I grew up in the church and so I always try to like Americanize the church, I feel like, instead of being specific. But yeah, like I grew up with a lot of pastors. I saw a lot of pastors write sermons. I have uncles and things. Or I had an uncle Charlie. He was a pastor, but by the time I was born, he was reaching the end of his life, so he was just like sharing like street sermons and stuff, or at like dinner tables. And I think about that a lot. And I just think about what that feeling of like, how do you share people and all that? So like with this one, yeah, there's a thing I like a lot in like Southern Gothic tales or like in like certain stories is like I like when there's that like final peak moment or it's not even a peak moment. It's just like it's sometimes the opening moment where like um men get to wear suits, men get to be very loud, but women know the truth and I love those moments in like plays or like in movies where a woman is like, I know who you are, Tony. I'm a huge I'm a huge fan of when someone like grabs another person and things like that to like where like truth erupts or like they like vomit truth and everything. I'm such a fan of dramas and the monologues and stuff. I do miss the performing arts and I do miss like the drama of theater, but I also like love the drama of life and things like that. I grew up in the church. I did like a lot of different roles in the church. I also used to count money in the church. And like when you count money and the people are like, I can't give to the Boy Scouts. We don't have any money. And then you're like, you just gave $1,000. You're lying. It's such a fun, like hidden drama because you're like, why would they say that? What does that mean? Where does the money go? How are they investing? And it's just like some the haves and the have-nots, the who's in the know, who gets to know, all of those kinds of things are very fun, peculiars, and learning people. I'm a huge fan of people's inner lives or just the ability to like have an inner identity. Something I think about, or something that's been really funny to me, is my brother was dating a woman last year. Was it last year? Yeah, it was last year. And she said that her family researched him and like Googled him and stuff. And he was like, he passed and everything. I was like, I hope she don't Google me because they're going to be a very, and it's not like things that I'm embarrassed of, but it's like my private life is my private life at the end of the day. And I always find it funny because I'm just like, There it was, like, 2, 3 years ago for my birthday. I posted, like, one of those, like, Instagram carousels where, like, you have multiple photos and stuff, and one of those photos was me on a stripper pole, just, like, hanging out on my friend's stripper pole, like, giving it a try and, like, being like, "Whee!" Like, just having a fun time on it, and my entire family was just laughing and, like, having a ball because it was just, like, so left field for them, and it was just, like, one of those moments where it was like, "Oh, yeah, we are living separate lives." I don't know. It's just funny when you think about what you talk about with a person and, like, how you talk to a person about your life, and then how they'll be like, "Wait, you do other things than the things we talk about?" And it's like, "I do a lot of other things, but this is the thing that you're comfy with, so let's talk chat about that." But the fullness of a person, I think, is what I'm always considering when I'm making these paintings, and it's just like, does this does this figure have the space to present them full selves? If not, then even if they are looking their best, is that really worth it? You know, is it worthwhile to be the person that has like the nicest outfit on if you're like plagued or tortured or feel like caught in your identity? Or is it better to just kind of be like what we would might say is like a houseless beggar on the street? It's like no one knows what only you know what is your inner peace and only you know what it takes to reach there, but it's also so complicated to defend that.
These are very philosophical questions. I feel very existential questions that, that's one reason I personally like art because, some people like things that are just pleasant to look at, you know what I mean? Or just, something that you have in the background. But I think good art, in my opinion, because I mean, it's kind of diminishing to be like good or bad art. But I should say art that is relevant to me is art that I may not even like it, but it gets me by the boo boo. That's something a Cheech and Chong say that I love. But like it just kind of grabs you and like it doesn't let go and you can't explain it. And sometimes like I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a book or a song. If there's some sort of lingering feeling that I can't shake, for me, it's like I have to get curious and be like, okay, why? So that's what I love about art because it kind of begs those questions. And if you want to be introspective, you can go down that rabbit hole. Not everybody wants to do that. So I think sometimes people want the art that they can just, have in their office to where people are like, that's pretty. But I think it's more interesting to have art that people are like, wait, why did you pick that? You know what I mean? Or art that like when you look at it, like, each time it's like, again, like, when you read a book and you're gleaning something new out of it, like, each time you look at it, there's something else that comes out, and it could be different. So, um, I'm curious, one thing that I did wanna ask you about that when we talked, on Sunday I thought was interesting is shifting gears a little bit, but you had talked about having to as an artist here in the South, you having to have to go to different art centers throughout the South to kind of, like, balance out, your artistic career here. That's something I hadn't heard before, and if you don't mind talking about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, totally. Real quick, just to comment on what you were just saying. I so totally agree with like it's hard to talk about art in a grateful way. I do think that art all of like my favorite art from my life, when I initially received it, I was like, I don't think I get this. So two quick examples of that is I'm a huge Gorillaz fan. Like I love that band. The first time I bought their album was because of the song Feel Good Inc. being popular and everything. I bought Demon Days right when it came out, actually. I got it that Christmas. The first time I played it, I was genuinely like, what is this trash? I don't get this. And it feels so smart and mean. Like it's so mean. I now play Demon Days every time I need a hug in my life. It's such a great album. It's such a like contemplative album about like the times that I was born into and everything. And it's so considerate in just being like, yeah, you are plagued by the times and stuff. And the other version of that is the movie Superbad. I watched that at my like shortly after my 8th grade graduation with some like childhood friends. And there was no reason for us to watch that movie as children because it's about us. And that's like kind of meta to kind of watch how you'll be reinterpreting yourself as you get older, right as you're in the middle of it. It's like we should have watched an action movie. But to talk about, the thing we talked about over the weekend, yeah, so I'm very thankful that I was able to show at Day and Night this week, but I also am an artist in Georgia, and Georgia is 50th in funding for the arts. So me, myself, and a lot of other artists, as much as we're working to gain the attention of the Atlanta art scene or the Atlanta arts community, we're in hyper competition with one another because of that. And so, like, I'll apply for a grant and then it will also be being applied for by some of my childhood mentors and everything at the end of the day, or will be applied for by like camp counselors of mine and stuff like that. And I'll be like, "What are you doing here?" And it's like also trying to get that $2,000. And it's like we're all kind of sharing the resources in the South at the end of the day. Like we do not have enough to sustain everything. So sometimes when people are like, "I want to be in New York, I want to be in LA," I completely understand it just because there's like more opportunity. Similar to how there are more job opportunities up north, depending on where you're at, based on like population density. The same thing goes for like art opportunities. So, and it's also just like, as much as I like love being an artist and like the opportunity, it's like you have to fund a lot of this practice yourself at the end of the day. So for for example, I was in a studio at a time, and when I was transitioning out of the studio, I got a little bit upset and I wasn't talking to some of the other artists for like a week or two just because I was like, I'm jealous. All y'all have such successful art careers. You're able to pay for these things. And then I got to talking to them, and maybe one of them has a successful enough practice to like actually pay for the studio. Other people were doing double jobs that I didn't know that they were doing and working more than that they had alleged to. Other people were like, I had a friend, he was like, "Yeah, I'm about to go work on a farm." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm dipping to go work on a farm. I'll be back in a couple weeks." I was like, "When?" And I was like, "Now." And I was like, "We're in the middle of art season. You need to be here. You need to mingle on network." And he's like, "No, I don't. I need to work." And it's like last year I worked on a film for a month and everything to kind of fund the rest of the year. I worked on a movie all most of September, part of October, I believe, if I'm remembering thing no, yeah, most of September, part of October, if I'm remembering correctly, and that covered, gallery fees, that covered travel, that covered, like, a lot of the things that I then had to handle or, like, recuperate, and that was to show if I didn't work that film, I don't know if I would've been able to work all of the just make the opportunities that end up having, because like, sometimes, that money would go to going to another person's show to, like, support their show, and then I meet a person that would then lead to a gallery showing later on in the year. And even with, like I showed it's February now, within the last few months, I've shown 6 times. Um, I sold once in those 6 times at this point, and it's just like that's what most artists go through. Most artists can sell a piece right now, a few pieces, uh, and I would say most, not to, like, generalize or anything, because there are plenty of people that have, like, different levels of success or are doing fine in, like, different ways, but I would just say that there are a lot of people that for how we communicate about the presence of the arts, you would think that a lot of people are more sustained and fine, and I would say that, it's like most gig work and everything, we're working gig to gig and we're working opportunity to opportunity, but I don't know, if I didn't love it, it would be a very different thing. I don't think I would do this just because I, like, see a couple other people successful. All the time when people kind of make art in a more product way, I'm very jealous of them doing that just because I'm like, if you do it this way, then you can sustain yourself, but also it's just like, where can you take this at the end of the day? It's like, part of me is like, it might be easier if like I really hunker down and figure out how to make the right kind of like prints or something like that and just kind of like spend the rest of the year trying to make like the perfect $40, 25, 50 or whatever it is print. And then there's part of me that's like, that's a redefinition of my practice then. And I think there's a lot of practicing artists that wish that there were more ways to be supported, but also, um, I don't know, it's kind of a trap being an artist because I'm all the time like, I want to ask for more help. I want to ask people to be more aware of the arts and things like that. Also, does that make me feel? Sometimes it makes me feel like I sound thirsty and stuff like that. And I should just kind of like wait for fate to properly. I don't know. It's complicated. It's like, it goes back to the self mythology thing where it's like we think it's supposed to go one way or think it's supposed to be a way. And it's mostly because we haven't seen it in another way. It's like, I think you were talking about earlier about like the idea of being like a tortured artist or like a like self-proclaimed, like I got it up, like that idea, like I got out the mud, I did this by myself. I'm a person that's always like all of my success and the very little success I do have, it's based on privilege. It's based on the fact that I live with my parents. It's based on the fact that I have a very kind family that has given me a lot of space to figure out a lot of these concepts by myself. It's based on the fact that I've had friends constantly like pick up like my like because I'll have emotional dips and stuff where I'm like, there's no point to this. I don't get the point to anything I'm doing. Like I'm really lost as a person. And that has consistently been picked up by others that have reassured me that I'm doing my best. I'm doing what I can and stuff. All of my paintings have been like donations and stuff. Like all of the paint, a lot of it was donated from like my high school art teacher who still like invests and believes in me. Like I'm constantly a person that's like, am I a tortured artist? Totally. It's also I'm a masochist. These are a lot of like someone putting the stick in their own tire way more than it's like, and it's not to be like society's easy on me. It's not, but it is to be like there were smarter ways to handle some of these things, and sometimes, um, I don't know. I don't want it to. I want people to be fully aware of it. It's like, um, I do feel like I do need to put in the full effort, the full gambit of a job to be an artist and stuff like that. Like, I'm not trying to like cheat and be like, I made one painting a year, $1 million, please. That's not what I'm talking about. I do want to work 24 hours a day on the arts, but I want to be able to survive off that. I don't want to work. An argument my family and I get into a lot is constantly me being like, I'm a good enough art that if I lived in a different time period, I'd be fine. But because I live in today's time period, I kind of need a full-time job to also support my art job. And that's not fair at the end of the day. And it's like, if I was worse, I totally understand where they're coming from. If they were like, quit, we need you to get a real job. We need you to like help the community and things like that. I think that'd be very responsible of them to do, but they're very kind. And so we're doing this very irresponsible gamble of supporting me as an artist. But that's because I believe in it at the end of the day, and I wish that I wish for as much as we talk about believing in the arts, we gave the materials to the artist to actually, like, get things done, and sometimes it's not even the material, I just wish I could trust that I have enough time to work on this stuff, like, part of me is like, "Should I be working on art? Should I be working on jobs? Should I be working," and it's just like, I wish I didn't have to balance back and forth or have like this double life at the end of the day. There's a lot of times where like I'm talking to people in my life and they're like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "I'm fine." And I just kind of like end it at "I'm fine," just because like if they're in the art world, then they understand what I'm fine means. They understand that it's a season of me building and making and creating. And like, if I'm not done or finishing something, then like, it's just a regular day. And that's kind of like a regular day will be a regular day now. It will be a regular day when I eventually find a partner and get married. If I have kids, it will be a regular day. Like, that will be the day until the end. Uh, when I'm talking to like people like my uncle and stuff who wants to know like I'm incrementally becoming more successful, so I can confirm to him that I'm incrementally more capable of taking care of myself and others around me. That's a very different conversation about that because to him that's a very materials gain thing. So that's a very much like what resources do you have to prove that you are a fine character instead of being like, what conversations have we have? What things have I revealed to you? And then in return, you've revealed to me that lets me know that you have fine character. I think that's a major dilemma and issue within the arts, but also just within the world right now. There's a lot of people that are like, who are you? And they're like, are you a car owner? Are you a house owner? And it's way less like, what did you do to get that car? And then when people finally tell you what they did to get that car, you're so like shocked or disappointed. And I think that's why people are so critical over it. It's because we're telling you up front how we're getting the car. And it's like, wait, you're getting the car for painting? Do you want to admit how I want to admit how I'm getting the car? Because it's boring. It's not even like they're doing something like problematic or they're doing something like deviant. Because I think a lot of the times when people talk or don't talk, people are like, oh, they're hiding something bad. I'm like, no, they're not. They're boring. People are hiding their boring way more than they're hiding the fact that they're secretly like a better do-gooder or like some secret evil that the world is hiding. It's like, no, people are hiding the fact that they're nostalgic for being children and doing nothing as adults.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing, your perspective and what has contributed to, you being an artist and also what is helping to foster you being an artist, because I think community is a huge part of it. And I definitely wanna delve further into some of the things that you've discussed. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Oh no.
I know, so sad.
Part two.
Yes, absolutely, part 2. But before we end, as usual, we just, give ourselves just a moment, to take a deep breath and let go of the stress or anxiety that the day may have brought. And just to remember that there are many ways to be creative and there are many opportunities to express that. And sometimes simple conversations can lead to a lovely, line of insights. And that's part of what I feel art really does bring to the world. And hopefully we'll be able to continue this conversation soon. But thank you again to Daniel.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Oh, before I go, I'll say this. My tag is Dan. It's like a shortened version of my name, and it stands for Do Anything Now. I like to encourage that anytime I'm teaching art or I'm talking about the arts. Believe in your capabilities. Please believe in yourself and just give it a try. It will go way better than maybe you're believing it will.
Oh, that's very beautiful. And also, please share your Instagram handle so that way
Oh, yeah,
people know how to find you.
my Instagram handle is My on Sundays, and it should also have my website, Dan Gilstrap, so DANGILSTRAP.com, and probably by the time this goes up, my website should be back up, but my Instagram is live and active, and it's a fun place to be.
Yes, so definitely check it out. But it's been a pleasure, everyone, and hopefully everyone has a great rest of their day. Till next time.